Welcome to the Briefing Room, a show by warriors for warriors. Our audience is 50,000 plus professionals, engineers, scientists, and researchers. I am Matt Bowman. I've spent over 20 years briefing the highest levels of military and civilian leadership. My co host is Dr. Tyrone Taborn, a nationally known, no, internationally known leader in science, technology, engineering, and math. And our show is to help you, the college students, the professionals, the CEOs, the entrepreneurs, and the next generation artificial intelligence leaders to level up, to raise your game to the highest levels of human performance. So, on this show, we do two things. The first thing is we take you around the world in 60 seconds. And after that, we bring you one of the military's top thought leaders on leadership and human performance. Our guest today is Colonel Michael Black, U.S. Air Force retired. But before we get to Mike, let's talk about the world. Rather than going through all 7 continents, the world can be wrapped up this week in one word, and that word is Iran. The United States continues to, and Israel continues to grapple with the closure of the Straits of Hormuz. What is the best way to handle that and the implications of that closure? The simple fact of the matter is the memorandum of understanding that was signed between Iran and the United States to cause a ceasefire in the hostilities has some misinterpretations, some badly worded words, maybe some bad intent. All those things combine to make for a very uncertain world. But the thing that you can be certain of is that if you raise your game to the top levels, that you will thrive. You just won't survive, but you will thrive in an uncertain world. So, what are the choices when the Straits of Hormuz are closed? Well, one is to go through the southern channel and use Oman, not likely to happen. Two is to negotiate with Iran so that they quit shooting drones and missiles at the southern route and allow for the free transportation of maritime oil through the Straits of Hormuz. How likely is that to happen? The world won't know. The memorandum of understanding leaves a lot of room for Iran to put in various fees, voluntary and involuntary, and just really disrupt the world trade. So we're going to stay tuned to the Straits of Hormuz. It affects Asia, Europe, Africa, South America, North America, and even Australia. So the implications for these discussions and the implications of what's going on in Iran affect all of us. Now, let's get to leadership. It's not just enough to talk about thought leadership. It's important that we talk about the people who've put their left hand and their right hand in the till and actually made these things happen. Colonel Michael Black is one of those leaders. He's a legend in the Air Force, rising to the rank of colonel. He has a distinguished career in uniform and serving veterans. So, with no further ado, can I get a drum roll, please? Let's welcome Colonel Michael Black. Sir,
Greetings,
welcome to the show.
greetings, Matt. Thank you for having me. Appreciate that trip around the world. I watched the news in a whole different light today from the different jobs that I had, so I can relate to the current events.
Well, excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, for the last 35 plus years, you've lived those current events each and every day. But a person doesn't get to your level of success without having a really, really strong foundation. So, what I like to do is I like to reel it back and go as far back in your family as you can so that our audience, those future Rose Kennedys of the world who want to build an empire and build a legacy, can learn from your story. So, as far back as you can go, sir, tell us about your family.
Well, immediately I can go back to my grandparents. Those are the people that I saw and witnessed, both on my paternal and maternal side of the family. My grandparents are from a paternal grandparents are from a small town called Beatrice, Alabama, which is north of Mobile. Today, the population of Beatrice is probably less than 150. Maternal side from Brettenburg, Alabama, which is even smaller than Beatrice. And so um, going back periodically to visit grandparents, both who lived on a farm and had multiple traits, whether they be blacksmith, uh, raising animals, being a farmer, witnessing that kind of labor. My grandmother on my paternal side also was the Avon lady, so she sold Avon to all the small towns around Beatrice, Alabama, and so witnessing them work, entrepreneurship, getting to see that firsthand. Taking it back even further, I did do a study of my roots and went all the way back to Grandpa Tom, who actually came over from Africa, and my grandfather Billy Black on the paternal side actually got to see Grandpa Tom, and so I heard firsthand stories of what Tom did, what he accomplished. Legend has that he lived well over 100 years old, built a chimney on a house when he was over 100 years old, a blacksmith, a farmer, a carpenter, all of that. During junior high school, I did a study of my family tree. And so I actually found all this information out through interviewing my grandfather and then verifying things at the National Archives, which
Wow.
uh, was very interesting to see exactly what my grandfather told me was, as he mentioned by name, the ancestors. And then I go to the National Archives, old card catalog style. So you pull out a card catalog and start looking, and you see this is exactly what Granddaddy Billy said. This is who this is. This is how many kids they had. This was his spouse. All of that kind of stuff. So seeing that firsthand um, was an experience.
Well, it's fascinating that you have that history. 97% of the African Americans who are in the United States have been here over 200 plus years, and so you're digging in the crates to find your history right there in front of you, and having that written history match the oral history is just an incredibly powerful story. So my hat is off to you.
Now it
Coming
was,
from
yes, it was amazing to hear that. Go ahead, sir.
Coming from Alabama, Nina Simone has a song, and it says, uh, the chorus of the song is, um, uh, that damn Mississippi, but Alabama was right in that. So, for your ancestors coming out of Alabama, which is the heart of the South, what was that like for them? And how did they stress education so that you would be able to rise to the level that you are? I mean, so many adversities coming out of
Right.
Alabama.
You mentioned education. So both my parents are educated. My dad graduated from Tuskegee Institute, as it was called back then. My mom graduated from Alabama A&M. And so witnessing, that foundation and having that foundation of my parents going to school, going to college, it wasn't a question for me of was I going to college. It was where are you going to college. So we didn't even entertain are you going or not. It's where are you going. But even reeling that back further, I talk about my grandparents on my paternal side, uh, Billy and Owita Black. They visited Tuskegee Institute when my father and his brothers and sisters were growing up, and they saw um, the statue of lifting the veil of ignorance at Tuskegee. And once they saw that statue, they said that that's where they wanted their kids to go. And so 6 of the 7 siblings went to Tuskegee and graduated from Tuskegee. The plan that the grandparents gave them, and I say plan because being a military person, I know you understand this. A plan is something that you execute. They give you a plan and you execute that plan. The plan that my grandparents gave my father and his brothers and sisters was that the 3 oldest would go to Tuskegee. They would find a way for the 3 oldest to get through Tuskegee, and they assigned. And I use the word assigned because that's what was told to me. They assigned the 3 youngest to the 3 oldest. My dad was the
Wow.
oldest of the 3 youngest, and so he was assigned to the oldest of the 3 oldest. which was Velma Pace, my aunt. And so Velma had the responsibility not only to get herself through college, but she had to make sure that Clinton James Black, my father, graduated, and so
Wow.
on. The second oldest was assigned to the second oldest of the three youngest. The third oldest was assigned to the youngest of the three youngest. And so 3 women and 3 men. So 6 of them graduated from Tuskegee. So I would say probably
Wait, 6 out of 6?
6 out of 6 that went to Tuskegee. The seventh, my older uncle at the time, Bradley, had gone off into war and went elsewhere. But these 6 all went to Tuskegee. And so if you think about the mid 50s to the mid 60s, there was at least one member from the Billy and Oweta Black family at Tuskegee during those 10 to 12 years, and sometimes 3, depending upon, the age gap. And they're, roughly 2 years apart. And so, you would see, and I can only imagine this, of, somebody from the Billy and Oweta Black family at Tuskegee. And when one graduated, that was motivation, and so on and so on. And I will say this, not to brag, but just to see.
Brag, stop. Okay, this is another motto of this show.
Right.
We are all quiet professionals, but in order for people to raise themselves to the highest level, I need you to take off the quiet professionalism crown and put on that crown of, I'm just going to tell my story in all of its glory. So brag, sir.
Okay.
Brag.
All right. Well, as they say in the military, you've given me the green light.
Okay.
And so I am going to brag. So those 6. So we start with Velma, who's the oldest, Chris, the next oldest female, Billy, the next oldest, Clinton, my dad, the next oldest, Dan, the next oldest, and then Dovey. So 6 of them. Velma ended up being a senior postal official in the postal system in Atlanta when she retired. Chris was a nurse and was married to an Army officer who also went to Tuskegee. Dr. Billy Black, the third oldest, PhD, president of Albany State University now, but Albany State College at the time. Clinton Black, my dad, Colonel, retired United States Air Force Hall of Fame, ROTC Hall of Fame at Tuskegee. Dr. Dan Black, professor at Fort Valley State University in Georgia, and Dovey Black, elementary school teacher. So 6 that got their education and multiple degrees after that. I mentioned the 2 doctors, PhD types, and my father at a master's or 2. And so all of that stems back from Billy and Oweta going to Tuskegee and seeing that statue of lifting the veil of ignorance. Now, every time I go to Montgomery, I try to make a stop in Tuskegee to see that statue as a reminder of what my grandparents preached. And so anytime I hear Tuskegee University, Tuskegee Institute, I'm thinking about, I had, my father and 5 of his brothers and sisters. I went there, all graduated. Dad played football there. My uncle played football there. My uncle that was married to the nurse was a very good football player at Tuskegee. So not only did they get their education, but they were involved in extracurricular type activities. I also mentioned my mom went to Alabama A&M. My mom and dad were high school sweethearts. They went to J.F. Shields High School in Beatrice, Alabama.
Okay.
All black school and high school sweethearts, and then go off to college separate ways. Alabama A&M mom and Tuskegee dad, and then they get married. I was born in Tuskegee. I was born in John A. Andrew Hospital, which was a teaching hospital on Tuskegee Institute at the time. where a lot of folks that went on into the medical career field, down there learn things at that teaching hospital. And so, not only was I born there, I have the history of my family, attending there. And
So you guys are deep in Tuskegee. Y'all are,
yeah,
you know,
we are deep, and I forget the year, but one of the years, I believe in the 70s, my grandparents were parents of the year for Tuskegee, because of all of the accomplishments that their kids had made. And I remember seeing the news articles and pictures of my dad's brothers and sisters, my uncles and aunts, and my grandparents.
wow.
And so it was just neat to do that. So when you have that kind of history firsthand, and you witnessed it, and you see it, and you see that your aunt is a senior postal worker and a nurse, two with PhDs, colonel in the Army, and a teacher. I'm not saying you can't help but be, but you have that around you, and so when you see that, you know what excellence is. You talked about excellence earlier, but to witness excellence is pretty remarkable.
And I think that that's a big nugget for anyone who's listened to this podcast, is to surround yourself with achievers. I mean, nothing beats the phrase iron sharpens iron. And
Right.
if that iron can be family members, I mean, what a testimony to pulling up not just, the people around you, but your actual own family. And I think if all of us took that to heart, hey, let's reach inside our own families and pull them up and make sure that we're all level set. I mean, what a country, what a world we would have.
Yeah.
Sir, you mentioned.
Oh, go ahead. I do want to just give one more plug. You asked about education. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I really want to say education. So then you look at my immediate family. Okay, my wife and three kids. My wife just recently was awarded her PhD in nursing education. All three of my kids have at least one master's. My wife has a couple of masters. I have 3 masters. So when you add all of that up and do this public math, the total number of degrees in the Michael and Wilda Black family is 15 for 5 of us, with my wife being at the very top with the most recent PhD. Yes, 15 degrees in the family. And when you tie that, into, what do you witness? What did you see? For me, I saw, my mom and dad, my grandparents, and then, my wife and her desire and goal to get her PhD. And we were just down in Fort Lauderdale a month ago for her to walk and get her degree from Capella University.
Incredible. Like I say, just an incredible story, just an incredible legacy of excellence. So your dad's a colonel. You're raised in Alabama, or your family's from Alabama. So tell me, we have students. What were you like as a high school student, and what was high school like for you?
That's great. I mean, I see the STEM City logo on the screen here. The high school that I went to was a public high school. It was a science and technology center, Eleanor Roosevelt in Greenbelt, Maryland, Prince George's County. It was the first of its kind school in Prince George's County, where you actually took a test to go to this public school.
Wait a minute. You went to Eleanor Roosevelt?
I went to Eleanor Roosevelt. Yes, sir.
Wow. That's the big 50-pound head kids, so that's.
Yeah, that was an amazing opportunity. And so that's where I went to high school. And let me just digress for 1 second, because this is a foot stomper for Eleanor Roosevelt, and it's something that I'm very proud of. In my high school class, there were 8 of us that got appointments to the Service Academy. So the class of 1981 at Eleanor Roosevelt, 8 people got appointments to Service Academy. 2 went to West Point, 4 went to Navy, Annapolis, 1 Coast Guard, and then me, Air Force. 7 of us graduated. One that went to West Point just decided to do something different after he got there. But 7 graduates from Eleanor Roosevelt class of 1981 are service academy graduates, which is virtually unheard of to have
That's
8 people from one high school class get appointments to academies, just because of, where people live, the senators and congressmen. But here in DC, you have quite a few that military folks. And I was actually a legal resident of Alabama, and so I got my appointment from Congressman Jack Edwards. But high school, science and technology center. And so I took a lot of science and math courses at Eleanor Roosevelt, microbiology, chemistry. My chemistry instructor was a PhD in high school, Dr. Hurl. And so those are the kind of people that I was exposed to. I think there's 2 other high schools like this in Prince George's County now, but the model was Eleanor Roosevelt. I'm in class of 1981. Even the first year that I was at Roosevelt, we didn't have seniors. I went in my 9th grade year. There were no seniors in that school because it was that new. And so being around excellence and being around STEM and science and technology molded, shaped me to who I am. And I like that word shape. We do a lot of acronyms in the military. Shape from the Purpose Driven Life book by Pastor Rick Warren. Shape talks about your spiritual gifts, your heart, your abilities, your personality, and your experiences. And so that's part of what shaped me is Eleanor Roosevelt High School, being a military brat, being exposed to what my grandparents saw at Tuskegee, lifting the veil of ignorance. All of my experiences, 26 years of active duty, 4 years at the Air Force Academy, 10 years in the private sector, for profit, and then 4 years for nonprofit right now. So that's how I'm shaped.
So all that meshed. I'm going to tell you, I also went to a DMV magnet school.
Okay.
Thomas Jefferson High School.
Oh yeah, that's a great school.
So I tell you, when I was in the Navy in uniform, Eleanor Roosevelt was one of my target schools for the exact same reason that you mentioned, just the talent and caliber of American youth. Don't let the media fool you. American youth are doing absolutely great, and we have some real superstars in the next couple of generations. They're going to keep this country at the top.
Yes, sir.
What about, so you're there. How does 8 people from your height, but you just had like an incredible recruiter, like how in the world is that even possible?
No, it's a great question. Eleanor Roosevelt is in Greenbelt, so it's not far from Annapolis, the Naval Academy. Hence, 4 of the folks went to the Naval Academy. But you took a test to get into Roosevelt, so you had good grades. Everybody did well on the standardized tests, and so we were very competitive. All of those folks were athletes as well, and so involved in extracurricular type activities. So you get the whole person concept, the complete package of somebody who is good in academics, extracurricular activities, athletic, leaders, captains of teams and leading teams. Hence, what you're looking for in the academy or some kind of ROTC program, that kind of thing. But that's something that I always tout, especially when I meet other academy graduates. Not to just boast and stick my chest out in front of them, but I say it in a very respectful way. But I say that my high school class, we had 8 appointments to service academies, and I'm in a little chat group with the other 5 that are living. One of them passed away. He was in the Marine Corps. So 6 of us are still in a little chat group and talk about things. And of course, we have the rivalry when the academies play each other. And right now, Air Force is on top with the most Commander-in-Chief's trophies. We don't have the most recent, but we have the most since they started keeping stats of the 3 Army, Navy, Air Force playing each other.
That you know what, you're exactly right, and far be it from me to get in the way of facts. Although Navy is better than Army and Air Force, but you guys may have more wins. Okay, so
All right.
that may be
All
that may
right.
be. So, sir, so tell me about the United States Air Force Academy. What would you describe it for a young person, or really any of the audience who've never been there? So you find out, you get a letter, and it says, "Hey, superstar 12th grader Michael Black, you've now received an appointment to United States Air Force Academy." Then what?
So you go, you show up. I showed up on 22 June 1981. I was a military brat, so I had been around the military, and so there were some things that I was exposed to, and so it wasn't all completely new to me. But an indoctrination into the military and learning standards and that kind of thing. Uh, uh, Amazing classes that you're exposed to, a wide variety of core classes, and then you decide on your major. But I mean, I took 2 law classes, I took philosophy, we had to take chemistry, physics, engineering, computer science, English, history, all of that stuff, and then on top of that, whatever you majored in. So you get a well-rounded education, get exposed to quite a bit. My little tagline about the academy is it's a 4-year exercise in time management, and they throw all of these things at you, knowing, and again, this is Mike Black's, it's not written down anywhere,
Right,
knowing
right.
that you're not going to be able to complete everything, but let's see how you prioritize and figure out what's most important. And if you get those important things done, you will make it through and graduate. And so
And
that's
that's
how.
probably a great lesson to learn as a warrior.
Yes,
How do
sir.
you keep the main thing without being distracted?
No, I think it's important to focus. I mean, there's 24 hours in a day. Throw a lot of things at you. If you're not organized or not don't prioritize, you're just not going to get to the end state. And so that 4-year exercise in time management. So that was the additional foundation of my who I am. 18 to 22 years old, going to the academy. And incidentally, I still keep in touch with a good group of classmates. I'm in a chat group with about 20 of us, and it's amazing what those 20 or so folks have accomplished. A couple of lawyers, a couple of doctors, a couple of entrepreneurs, a couple of colonels, uh, and just other leaders that have done things. We're 63 years old now. We just had our 40-year reunion last year, and I every time I'm in this chat group with these folks, I'm just amazed at what folks are doing. With the lawyers, whether they have their own arbitration practice or somebody doing first to human trials in cancer with
Wow.
Johnson and Johnson, entrepreneur folks that have written books. Um, Folks that have been senior executives, somebody that's involved in politics, you name it. It's just in this tight group that I have, and we stay in touch. And we're just trying to figure out how we can, where the synergy is, and how we can bounce off of each other and come together and do things. I love the word synergy. That's where 1+1 is greater than 2.
I
In
love it.
math, 1+1 is 2. When you have synergy with folks, 1+1 is a lot greater than 2. And so our group here is there's a lot of synergy. We're working on what we're going to call ourselves and all of that. Haven't finalized it, but Onyx Vanguard is something that
Okay.
I'm thinking of for that group of folks. And I'm one of the leaders. We're all leaders within that group, but I'm one of the folks that keeps the people together. I'm sometimes called Colonel Connector,
Colonel
sometimes called
Connector.
Nucleus, and so I embrace that. That's
Yeah.
how my steps have been ordered, and I I love being a leader, and that's what I've been taught. I was in a leadership laboratory for 30 years in the military.
That's right. And I'm gonna tell you, you have if there was a poster child for leadership, sir, it would be you. I want to talk about that a little bit and dig deeper into that. So once you graduate from the academy, tell us about your career in the Air Force, and then give us one or two Air Force Sea stories. I won't call them Navy Sea stories. I'll
All
say, give
right.
me an Air Force Sea story, and we're
Oh,
gonna zoom in on you.
all right. Sounds good. I'm a career communicator now. They call it cyber, and so that's what I did in the Air Force. And I did a wide variety of things. Starting out at a major command headquarters, doing testing of software systems, and then as I got more mature and more experienced, I moved up to eventually being a squadron commander of a combat communications unit. That's where I did my first command time. I also commanded a very large communication squadron at Langley Air Force Base. And at that time, we were ushering in the F-22 to be the Air Force's newest weapon system. And as a communicator, we had some responsibility associated with that plane, the crypto, syncing that crypto so that plane could fly. And so that was my second time commanding. I culminated my career in command again, which today is wing command equivalent. I commanded the White House Communications Agency, a no-fail environment providing communications support to the executive office of the president. You see the podium behind me. The president has to be the head of state, chief executive, and commander-in-chief 24/7. Wherever he's at. If he's going to get shave ice with his daughter, if he's going to the Olympics in Beijing, if he's going to get the Nobel Peace Prize, if he's riding on a train going to Ukraine, if he's going to Iraq, Afghanistan, if he's at Camp David, if he's at Mar-a-Lago, if he's at Crawford Ranch, if he's at Delaware, all of that. And do the same thing for the vice president. A joint organization, no-fail environment. All of my time leading up to that prepared me for that job. I didn't know it at the time, but it all prepared me for that. I had mentioned,
but you said a key phrase, and I don't want people to miss it. No fail environment. That is a tough job. 24/7, no fail environment.
Yes, sir. No fail means no fail. If you make a mistake in the White House Communications Agency, you are likely, three things can happen. You're likely to embarrass the president with a mistake. You're likely to be on the front page of the Washington Post back in the day when we had, hard copies of newspapers. I mean, a lot of digital stuff now. So that's number two. And then number three, Saturday Night Live will be doing a skit about you. Those three things can happen to you if you make a mistake in a no-fail environment.
And you will be fired, more than likely.
Yes. So one of my C stories associated with that is we were in Brazil supporting the president of the United States, and we had to make a call to get some very senior folks on a phone call, a secure phone call. So president, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, the National Security Advisor, and the White House Chief of Staff who were traveling with us, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. In this instance, we got the Vice Chairman on the phone, and then also a combatant commander, commander of AFRICOM, and getting all these people on the phone and hand the phone to the president and say, "Sir, they're all on here. You can, execute the conference call." Well, imagine what would happen if you do that and the president says something to the effect of, "I don't think they can hear me." That is that's a no-go, right? That's a no-go, right? And so you have a backup plan, if you will. Again, here comes the acronym, the PACE plan, the primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. And so you execute that PACE plan. To make a long story short, we were able to conclude that call through some alternate communication and get everything that the president needed to do. But we had that PACE plan to have that happen. So that's one thing that happened. Another C story. You see the podium behind me, the seal that's on that podium. The White House Communications Agency places the seal on the podium.
Oh, wow.
Back when President Obama was president, he was doing what we call an in-town mission in Washington, D.C., and he was speaking. And he was, if I recollect this all correctly, I think he was making a point. And, I don't know if he pounded the podium, but, hit the podium and the seal fell off. The seal fell off the presidential podium. That was an embarrassment. That was on the front page of the Washington Post. And Saturday Night Live did do a skit.
Did you skit on it? How does that thing attached?
So it's back then, and I'm not sure today, but it's like if you think about a pitcher, and you have a claw on the back of a pitcher, and then you have a nail that's sticking out, and you place the seal and the claw over the nail and lock it in the place.
Okay.
In this particular instance, doing an after action, found out that claw was bent, and also there was the nail was bent, and we probably should have used another podium. We have plenty of podiums. We probably should have used another seal if that was the case. I mean, that's kind of the diagnostic, of what we think happened.
Okay.
But a couple of C stories, there as leadership. One other C story just about leadership, and just because I want people to know that this can happen to you as a leader, as a commander. The hardest thing that I ever had to do in the military was make a death notification. A troop in my unit died while I was deployed over the Horn of Africa, radio operator, flying with the Marines, but an Air Force radio operator. And there was a mid-air collision over the Horn of Africa, and both of those helicopters went down, and several of the people that were on those helicopters perished. The radio operator, the Air Force radio operator on one of the helicopters, was my guy from the 1st Communications Squadron. There was also a radio operator from the Communications Squadron, I believe, at Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington State, and that radio operator also perished. But having to make a death notification to the family, next of kin, one of the hardest things that I ever had to do, the hardest thing that I had to do as a commander, and probably the hardest thing I had to do in the military. You get one chance, one shot. Eminem says you got one shot to get that right. Sir, ma'am, I'm here on behalf of the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force, and I regret to inform you of the untimely death of your spouse. No training. We don't get to practice that. I didn't. I didn't do a dry run of that. One chance to get it right. That was tough. I had to make 2 death notifications during my time in the military, but that one with the person that was in my unit, having to do that, Staff Sergeant Luis Melendez Sanchez.
Wow. I mean, that is tough. And so when you talk about, zero error environments, that's not, they doesn't get no higher than that.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't get any higher than that. All right. What we're gonna do now is take a pause, and
Okay.
in tribute of our fallen service member, I'm gonna take off my hat. We're gonna take a short pause. Quan, if you can take us to a commercial break, and after our commercial break, we'll come right back.
Calling all future STEM pioneers, leaders, and career champions. Join us on every second Saturday of the month for the BEA Career Day. BEA STEM Career Day is all about creating opportunities for students to venture into the world of STEM through the eyes of professionals. You'll meet mentors and presenters that will give you a sneak peek into the many options available to you in the field of STEM. Hosted by teen ambassadors, you'll find yourself among inspiring peers just like yourself that are aiming high for their future. To take part in the BEA STEM Career Day on Zoom, visit fullstemahead.us and register for the next session. Again, that's fullstemahead.us. BEA, becoming everything you are.
A world of careers unleashed.
All right, welcome back to the briefing
Yes.
room. We just had a fantastic conversation with Colonel Michael Black, U.S. Air Force retired. We talked about things, excellence. How do you perform in a zero fault environment, a place where there's no room for error? And how do you do the tough jobs that are required as a leader, and to do it with tact and civility, and to make sure that you do your job in such a way that it can be admired and set the standard for others. So we've gone through his military career, we've gone through his childhood, and now let's hear about Colonel Black and let's hear what he's doing today. So, sir, welcome back. Tell us what you're doing now. Well, no. Tell us how your transition was from the Air Force to the corporate world, and then tell us after that what you're doing today.
Well, it's a great question, Matt. So after spending 26 years on active duty and 4 years at the United States Air Force Academy, so 30 years, I transitioned. I was an 06 colonel, as you said. I was at the White House Communications Agency. And so that when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, that was the end of 2011. I broke it down to, okay, am I going to go to the private sector, or am I going to go government? And I chose to go to the private sector because I said, I could probably go government later on if I wanted to do that. And I'm talking about civil service or SES or something like that. And so I decided to go to the private sector. Then my next fork in the road was, okay, am I going to go, for profit or not for profit? And I decided to go for profit. Then my next fork in the road was, am I going to go large, medium, or small company? And I chose to go to a small company because I felt like I could have greater impact on the entire company as a small company. And so I went to a small government contracting company called Premier Management Corporation at the time. It had about 40 people when I went in, and I went in as the chief operating officer. So much like leading an organization in the military, I was very comfortable doing that. It was just something different, and it was going to be for profit, a different mission, if you will. But leading, I was something that I was used to. And let me just say, one of the reasons I went there is because I had a relationship with the owner of the company. The owner of the company and I were in the same unit in the late 90s at Mildenhall Air Base in England. And so retired NCO, Master Sergeant, that was our financial leader and basically our CFO for our intel organization. But he was a very, very smart individual, ran investment clubs and all of that, but started that business. And so I went to work with him. I did.
Isn't that a powerful lesson for so many in uniform that, listen, the people that you're working with and the ones that are working for you, it's a small world, and how you conduct yourself as a leader has implications beyond your wildest imagination. I think to quote the wise prophet Rick Ross, whoever thought that fat girl would be Oprah Winfrey,
Right.
So you just never know. So
Yeah. No, so I helped that company grow from about 40 people to about 225,
wow.
roughly 5 million in revenue when I got there, to over 30 million in revenue. Went from 40 people to 225, and so learned a lot about business, entrepreneurship, and government contracting.
What word of advice would you give to a GovCon who's listening here? They just gotten into SAMS. What word of advice would you give them?
So one of the things that I think is most important, just not necessarily just in GovCon, but as a leader, but it does apply to GovCon, is relationships. Mm-hmm. Relationships are important. And people want to do business with people that they can trust and that they know. And so I wish I had invented this little cliche that I repeat a lot, that the difference between contacts and contracts. Those two words are spelled almost identical. The only difference is the R in contracts.
Okay.
R stands for relationships. So your contacts can get you contracts if you
Okay.
relationship with your contacts. And so relationships are important. So I had that relationship with Marcus Bohr, the CEO of Premier Management Corporation. Knew him in the in late 90s. Fast forward to when I get out of the service in 2011, and he has his company, and he knows me. We've stayed in touch, cultivated and nurtured that relationship, all through. That's the thing that you have to do with relationships, is cultivate those and grow those. And I actually learned that cultivation and nurturing from my grandparents, who were farmers. I saw how they cultivated their crops, nurtured their crops so that they would produce and grow, till the soil, fertilize, crop rotation. All of that is
You did
all
all that. Okay.
of making those crops produce. You do the same thing with a relationship. You nurture that relationship. You till the soil, engage, so that the time that you really need something from that person, it's not like you're introducing yourself and say, "Hey, I'm Mike Black. You got $1 million that you can give me?" That's not going to go over well on a first introduction. But if you've cultivated that relationship, you have that, and that's important. And so spent 10 years in the private sector with a couple of different companies as a chief operating officer, and learned a whole lot about government contracting. So relationships, that's the advice that I would definitely give folks. Teaming, partnering, that whole synergistic effect that I talked about, where 1 + 1 is greater than 2. If you find somebody that has a gap that your company, organization might have, and you put yourselves together and go after something, I think that's important. And then lo and behold, 10 years in the private sector, an opportunity presented itself for me to go work for a nonprofit. Mentor of mine, A.G. Hatcher, told me about this job at AFCEA International, where I'm the vice president for defense at AFCEA International.
And for people who don't know what AFCEA is, can you explain to them what AFCEA is and what it does?
So AFCEA, formerly known as the Armed Forces Communications Electronics Association, another acronym, but we go primarily by AFCEA, just how it's sound today. We bring together government, industry, and academia to do IT, cyber, innovation. And we provide this forum for government, academia, and industry to get together, where government can talk about their pain points. Industry can say, "I have these solutions." Academia can say, "Well, I'm training people to, in the cyber, and this is what we're doing for cyber workforce development." All of that together to solve things and help with national security. And so we put together large trade shows or conferences where we bring these folks together in a widely attended gathering, another acronym, WAG, that's important to the government. It's a widely attended gathering, so the government can get the thumbs up from their general counsel and approval process to attend these events. And we put these events on. But a mentor of mine, A.G. Hatcher, told me about this opportunity as the vice president for defense at AFCEA. Went through the interview process and was hired by Susan Lawrence at the time, the former Army CIOG-6, retired 3-star, went from E1 to 09. She was a stenographer early in her career and made it all the way to 09. And so just recently retired, and you might know who took her place. Lieutenant General retired Bruce Crawford is now the president and CEO of AFCEA. Just as a quick aside about relationships, General Crawford and I were classmates at the War College. And so I met him, in 2006, going into the Industrial College of the Armed Forces. Wow. And so fast forward, today it's 2026, 20 years later, I'm working for my classmate from the War College. Now, we've stayed in touch.
Listen, you're working for the right one. I mean, General Crawford is just a phenomenal leader and a brilliant man. So that's fantastic.
So all those relationships are important. And I just will highlight 2 other folks that were, a part of, my, 3. I want to mention my mom by name, Rutilia M. Black. That's I mentioned my mom earlier. Wilda R. Black is my wife, the PhD. You also know Lieutenant General Al Edmonds, United States Air Force, retired. He was the one who sat me down before I took command of the White House Communications Agency, and took me to Mike's American Grill. My name is Mike. I mean, I love these double entendres,
Right.
triple entendres. So we ate lunch at Mike's American Grill, and he told me all the things I needed to do to be successful as the commander of White House Communications Agency, which he knew that mission very well because he was the director of the Defense Information Systems Agency at one point in his career, and White House Comm fell under that. One of the last things he said to me at that lunch was, here comes the double and triple entendre. He said, make sure you check the mic. So he was talking about the microphone in the podium out there. Check the mic.
Right.
I was like, yes, sir. And he said it, 7 or 8 times, check the mic. And I was like, got it, sir. I will check the mic, And then he put an adjective on the final time that he said. He said, you need to check that blank mic. And I was like, yes, sir. And so I will never forget that. And that's kind of, we have call signs and nicknames. One of my call signs is check the mic, because that's what General Edmonds said to me, check the mic. Although I spell check CHEQUE. That's the way the British spell check, like money. I was stationed in England. And then I give a shout out to the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, the Q. CHEQ.
That's it. I see that. See that.
So check the mic. And then finally, Major General retired John Maluta. He was instrumental in me getting the job at the White House Communications Agency. And he had worked there as a major and a lieutenant colonel. And I, again, tying this relationship together, while I was on the air staff, General Maluta was on the air staff. He went down to Langley to be the MAGCOM A6 at Air Combat Command. I was the first comm squadron commander at Langley Air Force Base. And so built up a relationship with him. And again, you fast forward, this is a guy who, spoke about me when I wasn't in the room and said, this is the person that I want to go be the deputy commander at the White House Communications Agency, and then ultimately be the commander. Now, he didn't reveal that whole plan to me. It's like, this is what you need to do next. I didn't know that his plan was for me to fleet up to be the commander, but he executed that plan.
But you were coachable, and that, so many people are not. So many people would have said, I don't understand the big picture. I don't trust you as a leader, and I'm going to chart my own path. And at that point, then so many leaders go, okay, knock yourself out. Right. I have a golden path in front of you. If you want to go battling through the forest, knock yourself out. So I think there's a huge lesson in being coachable and being willing to take a hard job if it's at the advice of mentors and advocates and champions.
Yes, sir. So that's what got me to where I am today. Talked about those relationships.
So you talked about relationships, and we have a lot of 50% of our audience is women professionals, and balancing work-life balance and actually even finding a partner is one of the top things that many of them ask me. So tell us a little bit about your wonderful wife and how you met and how you managed to stay married, 10 or 15 or 20 years, however many years you've been married.
37 years been married. My wife was in the service. She was a nurse in the service when we met at Keesler Air Force Base. That's where I was doing training, and she was a nurse at the hospital there. And she spent about 7 years in active duty, worked in the operating room, critical care, med surge, those kind of things, and went off for Desert Storm. And I was stationed at Grand Forks at the time. My youngest daughter, my only daughter, and my oldest daughter, only daughter at the time, was born there. And she was just 3 months old when my wife had to deploy in support of Desert Storm. They went to Germany to set up a contingency hospital. My mom, who I mentioned earlier, Rutia Black, called her like on a Wednesday morning. Mom was in North Dakota Wednesday night after I called her, and came to help, and took Jordan with her brought her back here to DC. Wilda was gone for 2 months. And then after she came back, the war went a lot faster than it could have gone. And there weren't as many casualties as we thought there might be. They had set up a contingency hospital in Zweibrücken, Germany. And so then wife got out, and I won't say typical military spouse, but followed me around to the different assignments and had to restart her career or pause every time, but still did nursing.
What was the secret sauce that made your marriage last when so many others failed? What was the secret sauce?
I think the secret sauce is really common objectives, common goals, carrying the load. I use the Flintstone example of putting your hands under the rock and carrying this rock. If everybody has their hand under this rock, it's going to be a lot lighter. You can move faster, farther, and everything. And so we each carried the load, had similar objectives of getting our education, wanting a family. We have 3 kids, girl, boy, girl. My oldest is a assistant principal at a middle school. My son is in the Space Force, and then my youngest daughter is studying to be a registered dietitian. She's got a master's in nutrition. And so, having all of that, wanting the family to succeed, similar values, church.
Is she from Alabama?
She's from Arkansas. She's from North Little Rock, Arkansas. So she is from the South, and we met. Like I said, she was in the service. We also went to Squadron Officer School, so the first level of professional military education, in Montgomery, Alabama, Squadron Officer School together, and that's where the romance bloomed, and
the romance bloomed, the magic happened.
Yeah.
Well, sir, we are now approaching the 60 minutes.
Okay.
So this is what I like you to do.
Yeah.
I want to have you to close this show out, and I want you to talk about mentoring. I want you to talk about the Air Force's officer mentoring organization that you lead and help run. I want you to close out with a final word to all the audience on the importance of contacts, relationships, and all that means. So over to you for the close.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. Mentorship is a passion of mine. I mentioned several mentors in my life and in my career. And I think that's important to shorten the learning curve, train your replacements. And so I lead the Air Force Cadet Officer Mentor Association, also known as AFCOMA, where we do mentorship, fellowship, and scholarship, and mentor officers at all grades, but particularly young officers and cadets. Provide that opportunity to shorten the learning curve, show them the T-shirt. Been there, done that kind of thing, because that's what people did for me. And when you can shorten the learning curve for somebody, you can give them opportunity to learn more. If it took me 20 years to learn something, and I can teach my son or another mentee something, in a year to do something, then using crude math, that's 19 more years that they can learn something else if it took me 20 years to learn it. And so when you can put all this stuff in your tool bag, your toolkit, and today's tool bag and toolkit is a lot it's a lot smaller than what you had in the past. You have this phone now or tablet that holds a lot of data, and you put all this stuff in there to make yourself even better, and have all of these tools in there. But I think it's important to train your replacements. I talked about those relationships, and then finally for me, my command philosophy, if you will, throughout my time in the military, and what I've lived through in the military all the time I was a commander, and what I've lived through now in the private sector and the nonprofit, is simply the 5 F's. Your hand has 5 fingers. It starts with the letter F, and so family, fitness, flying, fairness, and fun. those are Mike Black's command philosophy. And I say, if you take care of all of those, you'll be successful. Your family, we talked a lot about my family, your extended family, your unit, your organization. Fitness, physical fitness goes without saying in the military. We have to be physically fit for the demanding tasks that we have. But spiritual and mental fitness, what do you do to nurture your spiritual and mental fitness? Flying, at the time I came in the Air Force, the primary mission of the Air Force was flying. And so I would always ask my team, what is your role in supporting the primary mission of the Air Force? Fairness as a leader. It is so important for you to be fair, but it's equally important for you to be perceived as being fair. If your troops, your team don't think that you're being fair, and that perception is that you're not being fair, you have a problem, even if you are being fair or if you think you're being fair. And so that fairness is important. And then finally, have fun. I'd say it's not all work and no play, so you got to have fun. You see the Washington Commanders, a big chain and logo in my background here. And so I do fun kind of things, go to Washington Commanders games, go to sporting events. I love the San Antonio Spurs. And so I try to go see them when they're in town, do fun things. Last night went to the R&B tour, the Usher Raymond and Chris Brown concert with my family, and did it my way. Went with the family and really enjoyed that. So you got to incorporate fun into all of your activities. So that's Mike Black's command philosophy. So relationships, contacts and contracts, as if you have the right relationship with your contacts, they can get you contracts. And the final thing I'll say is, keep your head on a swivel. There's a couple bobbleheads up there, but again, a little cliche, but I keep my head on a swivel so I don't miss my blessing. Try to pay attention and see everything, put all that stuff in my virtual toolbox and have that 84,000 pictures on this phone. Nobody's going to erase my history, my data. There's a lot of data on here. I refer back to this quite a bit. So that's Mike Black in a nutshell.